Alan Dershowitz thought he could humiliate Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett on live television by mocking her law degree. What the Texas Democrat did next left the Harvard legend speechless, and may have exposed the legal establishment's biggest blind spot forever. The CNN studio lights blazed as two legal titans faced off in what would become the most explosive political confrontation of the year. On one side sat Alan Dershowitz, 85 years old, Harvard Law School professor emeritus, defender of celebrities and controversial figures for over 5 decades. His gray suit perfectly pressed, his confidence radiating like he owned the room. On the other side, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, 43, civil rights attorney turned Texas representative, her purple blazer crisp, her eyes sharp and ready for battle. But this wasn't going to be a polite legal discussion. Within minutes, Dershowitz would launch an attack that stunned the audience, questioning not just Crockett's legal knowledge but her very credentials. He thought his Harvard pedigree would intimidate this young congresswoman from Dallas. He was dead wrong. Alan just made a mistake that's about to destroy his reputation, whispered one legal expert watching from the green room. He has no idea what Jasmine Crockett is capable of. The confrontation that followed would go viral in minutes, reshaping how America sees both legal elitism and the new generation of black women leaders. Before we dive into this incredible showdown, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because you're about to witness legal history being made. The tension in the CNN studio was electric. Camera operators zoomed in on both faces. Dershowitz with his trademark smirk of academic superiority, and Crockett with the focused intensity of a trial lawyer who had prepared for battle. The production crew sensed something big was coming. Anderson Cooper, veteran of thousands of interviews, would later say this felt different from the moment it started. The air itself seemed charged with anticipation. What happened next would prove that sometimes the student doesn't just surpass the teacher. They completely demolish them on national television. This wasn't going to be a polite academic discussion or a typical cable news debate. This was about to become a masterclass in how real legal expertise destroys academic arrogance when they meet head-to-head under the bright lights of national television. To understand why this confrontation mattered so much, you need to know exactly who these two legal giants really are, and why their clash represents a seismic shift in American politics and law. For over half a century, Alan Dershowitz has been the face of elite American legal education. Harvard Law School professor, author of dozens of books, defender of O.J. Simpson, Jeffrey Epstein, and Donald Trump. His resume reads like a who's who of controversial high-profile cases. At 85, he's used to being the smartest person in any room, the authority everyone defers to. Dershowitz built his career on constitutional law, civil liberties, and an unshakable belief in his own intellectual superiority. He's appeared on every major news program, written op-eds for every major newspaper, and commanded respect, or at least attention, from the legal establishment for decades. His Harvard credentials open every door. His reputation precedes him into every courtroom and television studio. But lately, Dershowitz has been struggling. His association with Jeffrey Epstein damaged his reputation. His defense of Trump alienated many former allies. Some younger lawyers openly question whether his time has passed, whether his views represent an outdated establishment that needs to change. Still, he carries himself with the arrogance of someone who believes his Harvard pedigree makes him untouchable. Jasmine Crockett represents everything the old legal establishment fears and doesn't understand. Born and raised in St. Louis, she worked her way through college and law school without the privilege and connections that define elite legal circles. She earned her law degree from University of Houston Law Center, not an Ivy League school, but a respected institution that produces lawyers who actually work for real people. Before entering Congress, Crockett built her reputation as a civil rights attorney in Dallas, taking on police brutality cases, fighting for voting rights, and representing clients who couldn't afford fancy law firms. She didn't write academic papers or give lectures to other professors. She fought in courtrooms, won real cases, and changed real lives. When she arrived in Congress in 2023, Crockett quickly became known for her sharp questioning during committee hearings, her ability to cut through political nonsense with legal precision, and her refusal to be intimidated by anyone, regardless of their reputation or pedigree. She's part of a new generation of black women leaders who combine legal expertise with political savvy and aren't afraid to challenge the establishment. But tonight on CNN, she was walking into Dershowitz's territory, a nationally televised legal discussion where academic credentials and institutional respect traditionally matter more than real-world experience. This confrontation represented a massive cultural shift happening across America. On one side, the old guard, predominantly white, male, Ivy League educated, convinced that their credentials and institutional positions make them the ultimate authorities. On the other side, a new generation of diverse leaders who earned their positions through merit, real-world experience, and genuine connection with communities the establishment has long ignored. The legal profession has been grappling with this tension for years. Law schools are becoming more diverse, but the power structures remain dominated by graduates from a handful of elite institutions. Young lawyers from state schools and diverse backgrounds often find themselves having to prove their worth to partners and judges who assume Ivy League equals intelligence. Crockett's presence in Congress itself challenges these assumptions. She didn't go to Harvard or Yale, but she's proven herself more effective at legal questioning than many of her colleagues who did. She represents a district that includes some of the most complex legal and social issues in America, and she handles them with a sophistication that makes elite legal education look irrelevant. For Dershowitz, this represented a threat to everything he believes about legal hierarchy and institutional authority. His worldview depended on the idea that elite education creates elite minds, that Harvard credentials automatically confer intellectual superiority. He'd built his entire career on this assumption, using his institutional prestige to command respect in courtrooms, television studios, and academic conferences. The thought that a lawyer from a regional law school could match or exceed his constitutional expertise was not just professionally threatening, it was existentially challenging to his identity. For Crockett, it was another opportunity to prove that real legal talent isn't measured by where you went to school, but by what you accomplish with your degree. She'd spent her entire career proving this point in courtrooms, in congressional hearings, and in every professional setting where someone tried to dismiss her based on their assumptions about her background. Tonight would be no different, except the audience would be millions of Americans instead of a single judge or jury. The stage was set for a collision between two